Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
It's here. It's time. There's always a buzz in the air when you hit this moment.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
We will develop men. We will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
I think of him as this hawk. Before long, he's going to be swooping in on those quarterbacks.
And they embody what the school is about. It's about getting into hard situations and getting ourselves out. It's about working hard. It's about doing amazing things.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Well, that was perhaps the worst performance of the year. I don't think there's a perhaps to it. Welcome into TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño, and Olin Buchanan is live in Nashville, Tennessee on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. OB, that sucked.
Must be something about playing teams from Oklahoma, because the last time they played that badly was against Oklahoma State back in, I think, November, and they scored the same amount of points, 63. You would like to say, well, two things were at work, two dynamics, that Oklahoma is playing for its NCAA tournament life, has all the sense of urgency and everything in the world to play for, while A&M really isn't. They know they're in the NCAA tournament, and so they're not playing with the same fury, with the same urgency, right? But even that cannot account for that dismal showing. The shooting was abysmal. They went through a stretch, you saw it, and I know you wish you hadn't, where they made one of 16 shots.
Yeah.
And look, it's so basic in basketball. You score by putting the ball through the hoop. But in A&M's case, they have to make shots because three-point shots in particular, because they just don't have the consistency inside. They're short. So if they're trying to drive, they're usually, a short guy going in against a, guy 6'9" or taller, and they often get stuffed. But that was, I think that game right there makes you look, okay, yeah, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament, but why would you feel that it's going to be different, whoever they play? But, David, you know this? They did not shoot the ball well against Texas, and they lost. And then the next game, they came back and lit it up against Kentucky. So it's capable. But they're not a good shooting team. They're a streaky shooting team.
Yeah. Here's the correct take, OB, and tell me if you agree with me. We would all take A&M's resume over Oklahoma's 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
I would rather be playing the way Oklahoma has played over the last 2 weeks, entering the tournament, than the way A&M is entering the tournament. And I know A&M's had some good moments in the 2 weeks, right? But they're not playing consistently good basketball night after night.
Well, I would say 3 of the last 4 games, even though they did come back to beat LSU, but 3 of the last 4 games now, they've really underperformed or just flat played poorly, right? Yes, Kentucky, that team can win. That team can get to the second weekend if you're that team that played Kentucky, but you didn't play well and shoot well against Texas. I think they had 5 3-pointers against Texas. Mm-hmm. Again, you talk about the 3-pointers because it's such a vital part of their team in their game. And then we saw them against LSU, and they scrapped one out, but they did not play well. And then like you said, last night was a disaster. So you're talking about they're going into the NCAA tournament having played really poorly in 3 of the last 4 games.
It felt like and there weren't many runs by A&M, but every time A&M did something good, it was followed by disaster, right? So I think they did something good, and then was it the 11-0 run early on? Second half, Pop gets going a little bit. They cut it down to 10, and then it was, 6 straight points for Oklahoma?
Yeah, well, I think they cut it to 12.
Okay.
And then they missed their next 5 shots while Oklahoma scored. And again, I mean, they had some 3-pointers. They had a chance to get to within 9. And they had 2 open looks for 3-pointers. They just missed them both. And again, Oklahoma then scores, and then it's over, right? They got it down to 12. You're thinking, hey, they hit a 3-pointer here. They could get it. They're into single digits, and crazy things have happened. And then, again, they 5 shots in a row, and Oklahoma beat A&M in every way possible.
Well,
you saw the second chance points. It was 18-1, fast break. They just dominated A&M. There's no other way to say it.
OB, last time I checked, if you don't hit your threes and you don't hit your layups, you don't win, right? Like I don't know what else to say. You're not going to win
unless you're playing great defense, and they're not doing that. Look, it's been, and it's still going on, but it's been an amazing year as far as exceeding expectations. And when this season finally ends, and maybe not the day after it ends, but when it finally ends, when you get a chance to take a step back and go, what an amazing accomplishment for this team to do what they did. But you would like to see your team that they have it in them to do some great things, but you just hope you would like to see them be more competitive when the games matter most. And now you can come back and say, well, yeah, but that game didn't matter. But does it matter? I guess this is a question I have, and I know you don't have the answer. Nobody does. But does it matter for the NCAA tournament that you just played arguably your worst game of the season, considering what time of year it is, in the game before you enter the tournament?
OB, I know Bucky thinks the same way that I'm about to say, what I'm about to say. Every game matters. I don't care if it's tiddlywinks, Connect Four, thumb wrestling, basketball games, right? So I know inherently sometimes you could take your foot off the accelerator without realizing it when you feel comfortable. And that was one of the things we were talking about heading into this game. Hey, they're going to be able to play loose. Well, maybe playing loose wasn't good for this team, at least last night.
But listen, Oklahoma's playing really good basketball. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was their 6th consecutive win. And remember, A&M beat them twice, but one was by 4, and I think one was by 6. So it's not like they've gone out and dominated Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's lost some other close games. So losing to Oklahoma, though A&M obviously did not want to, that's not the issue. It's the manner in which you looked incompetent, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, to me, Oklahoma was better at everything, not just stats.
Everything.
They were more physical. They were faster. They got to more rebounds. They wanted the game and the moment more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I saw A&M have their hands, an A&M player literally have their hands on a rebound, an offensive rebound, and if they didn't just completely bring it down under control, not just like tipping it around or trying to reach for it and get their hands on it, an Oklahoma guy was going and taking it away. If it was a loose ball, the Oklahoma guy was getting it. Oklahoma, yes, I agree with you. They looked faster. They looked more physical. They just played so much more inspired than Texas A&M did. And then that goes right back to what we were talking about before. But maybe that was predictable because of the predicament that Oklahoma was in, is still in, actually.
Yeah, I mean, they're not in right now from, what Joey Brackett says, at least, that at the current moment, they are not in. By the way, I believe, I have it written down, the latest, the most recent bracketology that I saw has A&M as a 9 seed, UCLA as an 8 seed in the first round in San Diego.
Okay. At this point, I'm hoping that they get sent to Oklahoma City so we can just drive. But you know what? With the way things have gone against Oklahoma teams, maybe we just want to stay away from anything involving that state right now.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Disheartening, didn't feel good. But I will say that one game doesn't necessarily mean that's how you're going to play the next time you play.
True.
But I would say, and maybe it's because the level of opponents have gotten better. Oklahoma is certainly a better team now than they were when we played them early in the season. And then a couple weeks ago, it was that moment where they had the sign in the line in the sand, and they've won 6 straight. But regardless, the opponents have been better. But I don't believe, outside of an incredible run against Kentucky, which was most of the game, sure, but it was really when Ruben Dominguez went off that they were able to take it up another level. They haven't played their best basketball in the last 10 games.
I would agree with that, except I think they played their best basketball against Kentucky.
Okay. I want to argue that.
So in 9 of the last 10 games.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating point, because you see that Kentucky game, said this is what they're capable of. But you can't have Aggie, even though a lot of it was late, he gave you what you typically get, right?
Yep.
And because he had a double-double, I think it was 13 and 10. And then Pop and Rylan Griffin, at least they showed up. Rylan had 11 in the first half. He was about all they had in the first half. But then you look at, I think Clemens, again, I don't have a score sheet in front of me. I think he had 5. I think Ruben had 3. They had, like, I think, somebody, anyway, I think beyond their top 4 scores, everybody else, I think, combined for 17 points, which is one less than the last 3 scores for Oklahoma had. It's just, again, Oklahoma dominated the game. The problem is, why? Why? Was it a mental thing and they just weren't completely there because of the situations? Or is it something much more disturbing? And I think it might be that because, again, like you just said, they haven't played really good basketball in really 8 of the last 9 games. But you can look at the Kentucky game. If you can recreate that magic and be consistent with it, they could win. They could definitely win their first NCAA tournament game, and they can make a run at the second one.
What's the stat? Is it 3 straight games that they've had a 10-point deficit at some point in the first half? Right.
Yeah, 3 set, and of course they were able to overcome 2 of them.
Yep.
But yeah, last night it was pretty obvious that wasn't going to happen. I mean, even when they cut it to 12, it still seemed like it's a possibility maybe, but it was kind of a pie in the sky hope.
OB, I'm going to lose some fans or audience here on this comment. My buddy was texting during the game. This was in the middle of the second half, or middle of the first half, and they were down whatever it was, 34-12, whatever the number was. And I was like, they're not coming back from this one because I just didn't feel it. Yeah. And I don't usually think that. Well, I think it. I don't always say it out loud to people unless it's you because you're next to me in the press box often. But I don't usually text that, right? Like, I don't want that out there in the world. But I just didn't feel like there was something about the way they were playing. Like, there are certain times where they're down, but like there's an energy to them. They're just missing shots. It was, to me, a combination of many things yesterday, which made me feel like I don't think they have it at all.
I agree. I remember at one time Luke said, there's still a second half to play, because conjuring up the images and the thoughts of the South Carolina football game.
Yeah.
And I said, Oklahoma beat South Carolina. This isn't South Carolina.
OB, by the way, speaking of that same kind of scenario, I told you at the half why I thought they would come back of the South Carolina game, if you remember. So I'm not always pessimistic. I felt if A&M scores on their first drive, they're going to come back and win this game. And we were both poetic because I think you agreed with me that day.
Well, we still have that.
Yeah. At least we can lie to people about that. Hey, I actually, because I didn't sleep as much as I normally do because that late game, I forgot the name of the show and the sponsors and all that stuff. Can you help me out with that?
Barely. Okay. Look at my eyes, man. I hadn't looked like this since Quinn was a baby. Yes, you're watching TexAgs Live or listening to TexAgs Live. It's brought to you by David Gardner Schuler. David Gardner's Gym of a Guy, where at least David's in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Jason Jackson, Keith, Morgan and the boys and everybody else. This is the Go Hour, brought to you by the Warehouse at CC Creations, where David, I guess, is close to the holistic planning cool zone, but we're all in the cool zone no matter where we are, because holistic planning travels, because nothing's cooler than making money and keeping some of your money and putting it away for when you really need it, like when you're old and gray like me. If you want to be part of the show, you can call us on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending hotline. Mm-hmm. That number is 979, right?
Yeah. So
693?
Yeah.
1150.
Yeah, and then you can text the show too, right?
Yes, you can do that on the Catalyst Pure Performance Energy text line. Same number, 979-693-1150.
Obie, I've decided maybe you should host the show because you've got it all. Like I don't even need to help you anymore. You've got it.
I think I'm a far cry from actually being the host. I'm a better sidekick. I'm like Festus. You're Marshall Dillon. I'm Festus. I don't know if that means anything to you.
I think you would do better at hosting the show than I would be at writing a column. I'm just going to be very honest about that, buddy.
I think we both have our strengths, and I'm not equipped to be the show host because I'll get myself in trouble.
Well, this is true. This is true. We learned that yesterday. Anyway, let's go around the room, left and right, Mr. Owner. And we go behind the glass, and say hi to Nick Savage.
That's disappointing, David, because I did want to hear more obscure player references. But anyways, yeah, going to that game last night, I was telling you before the show, David, that's kind of the first time, for me at least, I know there's been other times this season where you could have felt this way, but for me, it was the first time where I was like, frustrated as a fan watching the game just because it seemed like A&M could not buy a rebound. They couldn't get a second chance shot up. Oklahoma was getting everything, and everything they shot seemed like it was going in. So a frustrating game for sure, and hopefully that doesn't translate to next week into the tournament. We're joking back here. They played their worst game, got it out of their system, so hopefully that translates to next week. But, yeah, I mean, we're going to have some locker room chats come out here on TexAgs.com a little bit later. Marcus Hill and Rylan Griffin, Luke Evangelist talked to them after the game, and they just flat out said what y'all said. They didn't match the intensity of Oklahoma, maybe mostly because of Oklahoma needs to keep winning to boost their resume. But, yeah, it's just a little frustrating game. But, again, it's always good to know to fall back on, hey, we feel pretty good about their tournament chances.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to make myself feel better when I'm mad or like disappointed in a game. Like, yeah, we know this has been a good season. We know that I think they're a lock for the tournament. I hope I'm right. It doesn't mean that the season wasn't successful regardless of what happens from here. Yes, all that can be true, but I can still be unhappy about what I just saw. And I'm sure Bucky was unhappy about what he saw.
I like to go visit the casinos from time to time. And there have been times when I left with more money than I came with. But I could have had even more money, but I might have had the last hand I go all in on and lose. And that's kind of the way I view A&M's season right now. So I should feel good. Everything is a plus for the season in its totality because of what was expected. We are playing with house money. But I want more of that house money. And last night I lost a big chunk of that house money.
Yeah, I think we all did. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kayla Gaither, it's a freaking Friday. It's spring break. She should be go partying or whatever, and she's working. Ms. Gaither, hello.
Hello. Well, this is my favorite place to be during spring break. And honestly, College Station has been nice. There's been nobody around, nobody on the roads, nobody at restaurants. So I've been having a great time here.
Well, what do you have for us this morning?
I actually wanted to point a little bit to a comment that I saw earlier. This comment says, Olin rated last night's game versus OU a C-. I rate it an F-. No energy, bullied by OU, demolished on the boards, couldn't hit a shot in the first half. About the 5th time the last 6 games, zero interest in playing defense, looked like a team that figures they're in the tourney who didn't want to play Arkansas today. What are y'all's opinions on that comment?
I don't think that they didn't want to play Arkansas. I think they did want to play. They didn't have it for whatever reason, and it was a collection of didn't have it, right? It was everybody didn't have it, OB.
The first half was an F, without a doubt. The second half, at least, they showed some fight for a while. And like we talked about, they went on a 12-2 run, I think it was, and cut the margin to 12. So I was giving them some respect for not just quitting when it was obviously a lost cause at halftime, but they kept staying in it. So they earned points there. The first half, I'd absolutely agree. It was a colossal failure.
Let's get another thing in, Kayla.
Yeah, well, a little bit on some lighter news. Anderson Garcia started for the Utah Jazz last night. He had 6 points, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block, and played 25 minutes. So that was really great to see him out on an NBA court last night.
That is a typical Garcia stat line, OB, right?
I don't know if because you're talking about what you and you did, the things you said at halftime of the South Carolina football game. And I can remember last year thinking, and I think we talked about this, if any guy on the A&M roster last year had a chance for the NBA, I thought it was Anderson Garcia.
Yeah, you did say that.
Because he does all the dirty work that the stars don't do. Caruso, very Caruso-like.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's going to have a very Caruso-like emergence for his career, or trajectory for his career from here on.
Let's hope so. OB, let's talk about taking Anderson Garcia to eat, all right? And I'll be the translator. And but I'm going to let you order for him at $17.75.
Okay, I'm going to say, hey, I'm ordering here for Anderson. Let's get him some of this succulent brisket because it's amazing. And if you're going to have Texas barbecue, you're going to get the brisket, and it's not going to be any better than anywhere than $17.75. And then I'm going to say, okay, Anderson, how about some pork ribs? They're amazing. And how about some jalapeno cheese sausage? Now, the only thing I'm going to say in Spanish is because Anderson does, he speaks English. So I'm going to say queso, Anderson, queso mac and cheese. But I'm going to order it like this. How about some queso mac and cheese? See, I can't even do it. Queso mac and queso.
Queso mac and queso?
But you know what, I'll say this. In any language, 1775 barbecue is muy bueno.
Muy bueno, salchicha, vamos a comer pecho de res. ¿Qué más, OB?
Sí.
Pavo. You love pavo. You're a big pavo guy.
Yeah. Bravo for pavo.
All right. 1775 txbbq.com.
You talking about the Vanderbilt quarterback?
No, not Diego Pavia. Pavo for turkey. It is 1775 txbbq.com, OB.
And it's good.
Everyone, David Nuño here for Allen Honda. Had a great conversation with them earlier today. John Allen's the owner. He's been here forever. And also their GM, Rusty Skinner, great guy. Wonderful conversation. They're super local. They're a family-owned dealership, not some massive auto group. And they treat their customers like family because they basically are family. They're Aggie alums. They love Aggie sports. And they've been serving the Brazos Valley with integrity, with passion, and commitment to excellence for over 50 years, which is very rare, by the way, for the independents because people trust them. And that's why they've been doing it for such a long time. Whether you're looking to buy, lease, or service your vehicle, you can count on them for transparent, no pressure experience that puts your needs first. And I can attest to it. Had a great conversation about my own situation with them. Their knowledgeable sales team will help you find the perfect Honda to fit your lifestyle, from fuel-efficient sedans to versatile SUVs. Leasing options are flexible and affordable, making it easy to drive the latest models with confidence. And when it comes to service, their certified technicians Only use genuine Honda parts to keep your vehicle running at its best, whether it's routine maintenance for major repairs or whatever it may be. And we know that trust isn't given, it is earned, and that's why generations of local drivers right here in the Brazos Valley and Bryan College Station keep coming back to Allen Honda. As part of the community with Aggie spirit in their hearts, they are here to make everyone's visit wonderful. So visit their showroom or their service lane and find friendly, efficient, and memorable situations when you go to Allen Honda. Come see why so many College Station and Bryan drivers choose Allen Honda for their automotive needs, and remember, gig 'em. We do recognize it is SEC play beginning for A&M baseball. We will do that with the baseball bunch. I'm sure we'll have something to say at Bank on it here on the show. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, when are you flying back from Nashville? Later this afternoon, tomorrow? What's the plan?
Tomorrow. Billy was gracious enough to give us that option because, you saw how late the game was.
Yeah.
And then, you have to wait for the teams to come in for the post-game press conference, and they have the winning team come in first, and that takes a while. So we didn't get back to the hotel until I think it was 1:45 on the dot when we drove up. Of course, you're not going to go immediately to sleep. And Billy's like, hey, if you guys want to stay. And at first I was thinking, and by the way, my flight was originally scheduled to leave at 8:30. So that was kind of a lost cause. That's why it's great having a good boss that'll say, hey, I understand the situation. If you guys want to sleep late, you have that option. So as soon as this show is over, I'm going back to bed.
Good for you. Good for you.
I'm going to fly out tomorrow.
OB, this A&M basketball team in particular, and probably most teams under Bucky, I believe this to be the case. Maybe not as bad as yesterday was. But I feel like when they're not the aggressor, when they're not dictating the tempo, they're going to struggle in games. And that you could say that about most teams, but the way A&M plays, it's like, it is my way, right? I'm going to force you into turnovers. I'm going to force you into playing at an uncomfortable speed. I'm going to force you to be in a shootout with us, and I'm going to trust my guys. And when A&M can't play that way, when they're not the aggressor, when they're playing like it's spring break, that's when games like that happen.
Well, I think they wanted to. I think Oklahoma was just prepared for it. And really, Oklahoma just did what A&M does, and they did it better.
Yeah.
And then Oklahoma, it was, I don't know if on TV, if it was as obvious, but Oklahoma defended the three-point line so aggressively that A&M just wasn't going to get it was hard for A&M to get a good look. And then when they did, they just weren't making them. And then when A&M would try to go inside, they have some guys, and I'm not talking about Aggie because he's really all they got, but we talked about it earlier. Some guys just are so much shorter. They got stuffed at the rim. Some guys just flat missed layups. It was a combination of A&M playing some of its absolute worst ball of the year, and Oklahoma really hitting their stride at the when you want to. I don't want to overreact to it on Oklahoma's behalf, but I'm looking at that team say if they get in the tournament, I wouldn't want to play them.
Yeah. Well, who would you want to play in the tournament? I'm not asking for a particular team, but I'll tell you what I don't want to play. And there's a lot of teams like this. Any team with length. Like, I just think that is and A&M's always, not always, but most of the time going to be the smaller team, right? That's typically be the case. But like, I felt like yesterday, and maybe I didn't feel it as much the first two times, obviously. Anything they tried to do in the paint, they were altering shots. They just didn't feel comfortable attacking the rim at all.
Yeah. In the first round, because if they're a 9, right, 8, the UCLA, I'm fine with that. I don't know a whole lot about UCLA, but to me, it really doesn't matter in terms of who you're playing if A&M's if they're not making shots.
Yep.
And I think if you're whoever they're playing, they're going to be able to watch that Oklahoma game and come up with okay, we need to do this. So it'll be interesting to see how Bucky anticipates whoever they play, how they're going to play them, and what kind of adjustments, if any, that they can make. Because we say, well, they've got to do this or this, but they're limited. It's so basic, David. I mean, it sounds like they got to make, when they have a chance to make some shots, they got to make them.
Yeah,
and it's not easy to do. There's a reason why shooting 33% from 3-point line is excellent. But at one point, you can't go through that. I think, 1 of 16, and those were not just 3-pointers, and they were I think they shot 22% in the second half. I mean, the first half 3-pointers, and that's only because they finally, I think Pop might have hit 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Let's have a break. We'll bank on something on the other side, OB, and then Luke Evangelist will join us. And was he depressed last night? Was he in typical depressed Luke fashion, or was he okay?
Yeah, I think he was all right. I was making some jokes, and I think that relieved the situation some. Yeah. And I think Luke, look, it became obvious, right? So he had plenty of time to come to grips with what was happening.
I would love our interns staff in the back, maybe in the off season, compile a bunch of videos of his post-game reports, wins and losses, and because I did watch yesterday's, okay, and it was like you were at a funeral. He was like, A&M lose. Like he was just kind of, he had that little fake smile, but he was talking like this. He was a little more whisper, Luke. And I've seen him afterwards just glee with smiles and just hand gestures. And it's, I'd like to see a compilation of it. And by the way, he is all of us, right? We all felt the same pain he felt yesterday.
Is that how you did, like when you were doing stand-ups after a Texans loss in the playoffs and they had like a big lead? Did you come out, or were you just always the same?
No, I felt I'm not what you're supposed to do. Okay, I'm not. All right, I'm going to give you two examples.
Just watch the post-game raps.
Yeah, post-game raps. But this, again, is for a fan site show. Like, I know how to wear the different hats. For instance, when Johnny Manziel had to come back against Alabama, and I was on the air as that was happening, you could tell at Channel 13 that I was an Aggie. I didn't say it, but you could tell how happy I was doing those highlights. There was a game where James Harden went like 0 for 14 in the fourth quarter or whatever against I think it was San Antonio, maybe it was Golden State. And I destroyed him on my live shot. That actually went Houston viral, not viral, but Houston viral of how. So yes, I'm the same way. And you're not supposed to be that as a journalist, but I'm like a pseudo-journalist, Obi. You're a real one.
Allegedly.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back. We'll bank on something. Right now, we're talking about Guarantee Bank and Trust. I believe it is very important to know the people you do your banking with. I believe it's very important to go somewhere where they treat you like family. I believe it's very important to go somewhere that's got a hometown, small town feel, and that's what you're going to get at Guarantee Bank and Trust. They have over a century experience in Texas taking care of Texans. That's what they do. They are one of the most respected community banks. They've got 3 great locations in the Bryan-College Station area. They're deeply invested in this region. They're very deeply invested into what your future is. They want to grow stronger for the community. They want to make sure they take care of you with financial education. Home ownership, if you're looking to do that, they've got you. Local businesses, nonprofit efforts. They want to make sure that our community continues to prosper. Every decision is shaped by making it grow stronger and stronger. Their market president in this area is Brandon, who's awesome. Brandon's here as an Aggie. He leads the Bryan-College Station team. He does amazing work. And they want to take care of you. They are tailored to support people who live and work in this area. It is Guarantee Bank and Trust. They've got 33 Texas locations. Check out the website, gnty.com. That is gnty.com. Guarantee Bank and Trust, a division of Glacier Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Time to bank on it. Presented by Vera Bank. Authentic relationship-based banking built for real life. Go see Joel Jackson and the team. Learn more at verabank.com. OB, you're banking on 1, 2, or 3 things this weekend.
Well, I'm going to bank on the Texas A&M baseball team having a lot more success against Oklahoma, especially offensively.
Yeah.
I'm banking on 3 things. I'm banking on are Grahovic, and I'm banking on Sorrell, and I'm banking on Akopian's supposed to be back in the lineup too, right?
Yep.
And if not him, then Dewar. But I'm banking on that. I'm banking on the baseball team providing A&M some. So I don't know if payback's the right word because different sports, but restoring some of the pride. I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but representing A&M in a better fashion.
I got 3 for you.
All right, what you got?
I'm banking on A&M basketball going to whatever city is the worst city on the NCAA list. So it might be Portland because it's so far. It might be St. Louis. It could be Buffalo, right? Like and maybe those are fine cities. But when you have San Diego, Greenville, South Carolina, Tampa, those ain't it. It ain't going to be there. It ain't going to be where I want to go. It's definitely going to be somewhere that you have to travel across the world to go to. Bank on that. Do you agree?
I hope not. Tampa, Greenville, San Diego, and Oklahoma City.
Yes, please. Right?
One of those.
In that order. And I'm also banking on A&M baseball is going to have a come-from-behind victory this weekend. Okay? I don't know which game it's going to be, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but they're going to have a come-from-behind victory where it's maybe the 7th inning, it's a little tense, and they come back, and you're going to be like, Nuño, you knew it. And if it doesn't happen, nobody will remember. And third, doing 3, Hokopian's going yard this weekend.
All right.
Bank on those 3. That's all going to happen.
Maybe he's going to go yard in that game where they come from behind, and that's going to be the way they win it.
Well, and then I'll give you credit for that one if that happens. All right.
I need all the credit I can get.
Let's go talk to the depressed Evangelist on the other side. We'll talk to Luke Evangelist here on the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Right now, we're talking about Rollo Insurance, the Rollo Insurance Group, the name of the studio, the great people there at Rollo Insurance. They build lasting relationships through education and also just by being good old people, helping you understand what you're buying and the why behind it. They have expertise in everything from home to auto to business to specialty coverage, and their independent agents provide options tailored to your specific needs. They take time to explain the policy in plain language so you understand it and you actually know what's happening for you. They want to empower you to make informed decisions about protecting your family, your home, and your business. And many clients discover better protection at competitive rates simply because they finally understand their options. You can learn more at rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. That's rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. Or call them up, 888-44-ROLLO. That is 888-44-ROLLO. We're back here on the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, TexAgs Live. We're continuing on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. Luke Evangelist live in Nashville. So is Olin Buchanan. Luke, how are you handling last night's loss?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm just tired.
Yeah? Yeah, you sound sad.
Why would I be sad? I mean, look, the season's not over, right?
No.
Like I don't know what there is to be sad about.
No, but buddy, you're allowed to be sad after a regular season loss, a tournament loss. It's okay. I was not happy. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with being sad.
I wouldn't say sad is the right emotion. I would say maybe frustrated at how they lost. I mean, we know what it is when it comes to SEC tournament basketball. The team that is playing for their lives and wants it more often than not wins. I mean, 3 teams that had a bye yesterday lost. So the teams that are playing for their season, like Ole Miss and Oklahoma, are on fire, and they won. I was honestly anticipating A&M probably losing that game, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad by 20. I was probably more frustrated with the lack of effort and just pure lack of offense we saw in the first half. Once again, digging themselves into a hole in the first half. That's probably what I was most frustrated about.
Obi, I wasn't predicting a loss. I thought they were going to win. What did you think heading into the game?
Well, I thought they'd win because they are, won twice. And I don't necessarily agree with it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I think it's hard to beat a good team 3 times. And Oklahoma has turned into a good team. Again, six wins in a row. I think if there's any sadness about last night's game, it's this reality that it wasn't just last night that they haven't shot the ball well. It's been 3 of the last 4 games, and maybe the next team you play isn't as good as Oklahoma, but and maybe it's better. But they're going to have to shoot better to have a chance, and they're unreliable, right? Because you don't know what you're going to get, but lately, what you're going to get is a team that is erratic offensively.
Luke, how concerning is it that they played their worst game? I think their worst game. You may argue another game. Worst game in SEC play for sure, right before the NCAA tournament.
It's definitely concerning. I mean, we talk about this team's offense being what has to carry them night in and night out. And we know they're a bit short-staffed defensively. And when you give up 49 points in the first half, that's okay, right? If you score 50, right? This team, if they play well on one side of the ball, they can make up for their deficiencies on the other. But when you can't make a shot and can't make a layup and can't make a 3, it's very concerning. They have to be better finishing at the rim. It just felt like they've gotten off to too many slow starts, right? It's not just the OU game. It's the fact that they dug themselves a 12-point hole against Kentucky. They dug themselves a 15-point hole against LSU. And last night, they just didn't have the juice to make up for it again. You can't go down by 22 points and expect to win. So it's definitely concerning. But as we know, this team can flip a switch at any moment. And they've got a veteran group. Every single player in that locker room knows now that they're playing for their season. There is no, all right, well, we're a shoo-in for the next tournament. There is no next tournament. The next game they play, it's win or go home. So it is concerning, but they've bounced back from adversity every single time this season, whether that takes a 4-game losing streak for them to figure it out or a 20-point butt whooping right before the NCAA tournament. Hopefully that is a little bit inspiration for them to get it figured out.
So one of the things I brought up to OB is like yesterday I was thinking in my head, all right, this team playing loose might be a good thing. But actually, I think the urgency that Oklahoma played with, and I understand why Oklahoma played with it that way, but A&M to me, they almost have to for that style to work. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, they have to be the hardest playing team on the floor, which is why, I mean, you talk about it's probably a good thing they might get a 10 seed. The nightmare matchup for them is Houston, because it doesn't matter if Houston's playing the 1980s Chicago Bulls. Houston will be the hardest playing team no matter who they play. Or if they're playing a JV team, it doesn't matter. They get up for every single team they play. And A&M style has to work with them being the hardest playing team on the floor. And too many times the last couple of weeks, A&M has not been the hardest playing team on the floor. They'll have their stretches where they'll go on these runs, but it hasn't been consistent. And the rotation has effectively shrunk to 8 guys that you can reliably play. And this style just doesn't work when you can only play 8 guys over 20 minutes. So they need to find something from their depth. It might be too late, honestly, to get anything reliable from guys like Fetty or Jamie at this time of the year. But there has to be some hope that any of those guys could figure it out and give you 8 to 10 quality minutes in a tournament game. So it's definitely concerning, but at the end of the day, like, we know what this team is. We know how they're built. We know what they are and we know what they are not. And they're going to be very matchup dependent in the tournament. And if they can get a team that has tendencies to not play as hard at times, that they can take advantage of that. But there are some concerns when you look at who could potentially be waiting on the 2 line, and it's a team that has an unlimited motor, because A&M has to be the hardest playing team in order to win.
OB, call your shot. They're a 9 seed, they're a 10 seed, an 11 seed. What do you think?
I'm terrible with that. Yeah, I think probably a 9, because I've seen, Luke's been talking about it all week about the teams that are on the bubble losing, but it's not just A&M's losing some games. So they'll probably, I'm guessing, still hang around at a 9. If there's a 10, okay. If there's 7, which they won't be, okay. I don't care. It's just, to me, I oversimplify it, but it's as basic as if you can go out, A&M, and hit some open threes, then you're going to have a great chance to win. And if you go out and don't make threes, you're not going to win. We've said it over and over. Almost every time that they win, they're going to need to make about a dozen threes. And if they do, okay, I'll be optimistic about anybody they play. And if they don't, definitely, if they have 9 or less, I'm going to be very pessimistic. The oversimplification of Texas A&M basketball right there.
There you go. OB, safe travels back. Luke, my understanding is you're going to stick around for Pounding the Rock?
Yep.
We got to talk Anderson Garcia along with Aggie basketball and maybe get his bracketology expert advice here on TexAgs Live. We'll hit a break. We'll come back. Tap is already in the building. That and more. It's TexAgs Live. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Time to pound the rock. Tab Bentz is in the show. Hey, Luke, little brother moment here. I'm sorry, you know how many yawns you've done this morning that we've seen on camera? Like,
yeah, I'm so tired, David.
And the kind of yawns, it's not like, I have your mouth is opening like gigantic
David,
opens. Yeah.
The moment this ends, I'm going to take my butt back to sleep. Like, that is the cost of playing the 8:30 game.
Yeah.
I was tired the moment the game started. Like, I wanted a nap at halftime. It's just, I didn't finish my article until 3 a.m. last night. It's been rough having the late game and staying up to enjoy Nashville, but I guess that's worth it, right?
Are you a coffee guy or no?
Nope.
Okay, well, you're doing life wrong. All right, Tap. I'm gonna and I want both you guys.
How did he survive college? I mean, that was just my college routine.
Just
up till
coffee.
3,
Yeah.
3 a.m. Go to class. Maybe.
He did another one. He just did another one on camera again.
I held it in.
No, I saw the big mouth open. All right, hey now, let's. I want to read this from Derm Doc because I disagree, and I'm gonna explain why I disagree. And I want to see if you guys agree. All right. He goes, not sure that anybody, quote unquote, wanted it more. We did not hit our shots. They did. I disagree. And this is what I mean by that. It's not that A&M didn't want it, but I do believe when you realize, like it's just human nature, when you realize if I don't win the next couple of games, we're not in, there's a different kind of way you dive for loose balls. There's a different way you rush to attack. And I think that's what we saw from Oklahoma. I don't think we saw that from A&M. Doesn't mean they weren't trying. I'm not saying that. Right. I'm saying there's a different level. Like there's another gear that you don't sometimes realize is there. From a coach's perspective, do you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. And, because, again, I think we saw it the 2 previous games with A&M, you know, and I was thinking on the way here a similar thing like that because going back to my high school days and the things that, trying to get, and again, I know Rashawn Aggie's, a little more, but still, trying to get people to go, hey, we're in, let's just go play. And I'm not saying they didn't play hard, but you could tell early on they weren't 100% locked in. Balls that usually come to them on rebounds or, everything was deflected. And those hustle plays, OU was beating them all. And to me, that's the difference of desperate and we're here to play a basketball game.
Luke, what is your take on that whole thing?
Yeah, I think it's completely valid. I mean, the sense of urgency that A&M played with on that 27-3 run against Kentucky is the sense of urgency that Oklahoma played with last night. They know what their season looks like, right? I mean, they've lost 9 straight. They've now won 6 straight. A&M was the last team to beat them before they went on this run. And when teams are hot like that, similar to 2022 A&M, the ball just happens to find you. You're in the right position. You're inspired to play because you're making shots early. That game was ultimately won and lost in the first 10 minutes of the first half. And when A&M has a slow start, you can survive against a team that isn't playing their best like Kentucky or LSU. But when you run into a team that is quite literally never played any better than they're playing right now this year, that's how you get down 20. And ultimately, they won the second half, but when you lose the first half by 22, that doesn't even matter. The game was never competitive after that. So A&M's definitely got a lot to work on, but that game was lost with the effort in the first 10 minutes of that game. It wasn't necessarily that A&M had their worst effort of the year. It's just that's what you get with below average effort against a team that wants it like 10 times as much as you. Well, I still think it's fair to say Oklahoma wanted it more.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that A&M didn't want it. And I want to go back to Durham's point, Tab, in that, but what if they are hitting some shots? Then I think it is easier to dive. You know what I'm saying? Like that run, it just lulled me to sleep. Like I was like, I'm done. Like I hated that game. I didn't want to watch it anymore.
Yeah, and I think we get accustomed to A&M going on runs. We know the runs go either way against them. And, at some point, okay, somebody's going to start hitting their shots. But, Marcus Hill, I think everybody's realized, don't go up because you don't shot fake. He's never going up on the first one, and they're just going to keep him in front down low, so he's not getting to the rim. And then I think it was 5. I don't remember his name. He was just blocking everything that we brought to the rim, no matter who it was, early on in the game. And I thought they really did give OU the credit, because I know you and Olin were talking about it. But they defended the line, but they also defended penetration, too.
They defended everything,
They did. They did a great job last night.
The 10 missed layups in the first half, back to what Tapp is talking about. Like, I didn't feel Oklahoma's length the first couple games. I'm sure it was there. I just didn't feel it. I felt it all game long yesterday. Did you feel the same way, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, A&M had all kinds of trouble. It says OU had 5 blocks on the stat sheet. It felt like they had 15. A&M just could not get anything inside. And when you have a team that's undersized across the board, how they finish at the rim against length is really critical. And you can almost pinpoint, if A&M is below 50% at the rim, they're probably winless this year. And when they're above 65 to 70%, they win most of their games. So you cannot afford to be that poor at the rim when you're also not hitting your threes. It's like something has to go right for A&M to stay in a game. And when both don't go your way, you're in trouble. And so when they're not finishing at the rim, it's hard to want to be motivated to get in a defensive stance and lock up your man and guard your yard and keep your opponent out of the paint when you can't hit any shots on offense. The reason this system works is when this team is hitting shots and forcing turnovers and playing at a high level on the offensive end, everybody's motivated to play defense. And when that's not the case and you're missing shots you normally make, there's frustration. Guys are worried about making the next shot and not necessarily guarding one-on-one or rotating. And so that's ultimately what you get is when the offense leaves this team, you see defensive breakdowns as well, because there's just less focus on that end because everyone's kind of pressing to make up for it on the offensive end. And so you see uncharacteristic turnovers when they do get the ball back, and then you just see kind of lapses in the half court defensively, and you see old habits of this team not being able to guard anybody against Oklahoma State come to fruition again in spurts. And unfortunately, you saw that for pretty much the whole first half last night. I thought they did tighten up defensively in the second half, but by then the game was already over.
I mean, how many times did we give up second and third shot opportunities, for them?
Well, look, sorry to be next year in Nuño. I'm going to do it for a quick second. Just, hopefully we have a long run in the NCAA tournament. But as we do for football, you identify areas that they got to go in this NIL era to go find and get. How important is going to be size with a full offseason? Whenever that is, hopefully it's not that long of an offseason. Luke.
Oh, it's huge. They're going to get bigger at every single position. They know they have to, and there's already plans in the works to get bigger at every position. So they know that they're vertically challenged. They were already small across the board when they had McKenzie. But now they know that they need not just tall starters across the board, but they need depth that has size too. So when your team relies so heavily on shooting and making threes, there is no kind of way to just settle, like Rashawn Agee can just settle the game down and get you a bucket. Zach Clemens can do that occasionally, but they don't really have anybody else inside that they can go to. Think of like a Pharrell Payne last year that could just back someone down and go to work in the post. They don't have that. And so having to play a lot of small ball helps their spacing offensively so they can hit threes and get more opportunities to. But when they're so reliant on that and they're not making that, there isn't really no change up with this team, right? There's really kind of one or two ways to defend them because everybody knows what they're going to do, but there is no other reliable size that you can go to. So obviously they're going to have their work cut out for them in the portal. They'll have guys that they want to keep and can build around for year two, but they know that, big upgrades are going to have to be made, not just in the front court, but also in getting guards in the backcourt that are 6'3" and 6'4", so that they can guard better on the perimeter. And then they just need more length all across that roster and more athleticism as well. But they'll get that because the staff has been scouting all year round now for guys that potentially might enter the portal, which they did not have last year. It was essentially, all right, I know everybody came from different staffs and had their top priorities in the portal at their old schools. Well, all those guys are gone now. And by the way, you're 2 weeks behind on even building relationships with what's left in the portal. What can you get now? Now they've had an entire season to scout, identify what they need, look at how other guys are playing at schools, and they'll get to call first dibs on guys that last year would have already been signed by the time this staff was hired. So it'll be an advantage for them because we know this staff is really good at recruiting, and I suspect they'll be getting names in the portal that will shock some people, and then also some underrated fits, guys like Zach Clements, who have paved the way for this staff to identify hidden talent that they can then exploit and use well in this system.
So, Tap, yesterday Bucky did say that this team is a little too reliant on perimeter shooting. But when a team, that's their DNA, is to shoot and attack. And when you attack, you can't get to the, like, what do you do? I mean, all you can do is perimeter shoot, right?
Yeah, again, because I thought they got some decent looks early on. They just weren't making them.
Yeah.
And I think that helped. You go back to your effort. Now all of a sudden that effort maybe drops because they're accustomed to making those shots also. So that's part of the issue. So if you're looking at a team that's desperate and you're only playing your average effort, and then you don't make shots and things aren't going well early on, maybe you don't have that energy to make that big run in the first half. I know they came out, in the second half and kind of made that small little 12-0 run, but we're also are accustomed to the A&M making a run in both halves, and they never made it in that first half.
Luke, I'm going to go positive on you, okay? Because I need a smile from you. Rashawn Agee set the single-season double-double record with 13 on the year, breaking Tyler Davis's for a team that is small, a team that you don't and he's small for the position he plays. Just how unbelievable is that?
Yeah, he's Mr. Reliable. Every night, pretty much you can count on him to, even on his worst night, he'll get you 8 and 7. He's everything to this team. And obviously the individual accolades have come his way in the last couple of weeks, and there's nobody more deserving of that double-double record. And they've needed him to step up, right? Like the rebounding pressure that is on him every single night, not just because there's no Mackenzie Mbako NBA talent on the offensive end, but people forget that that's a 6'9" guy who can just get 5 rebounds a game, and that's less pressure being put on Rashawn Agee. There's often times where he's the only guy 6'6" or taller on the floor and has a ton of pressure to rebound the ball. So obviously getting his shots off and scoring and being perfect from the field last night is impressive, but he had 10 of A&M's 33 rebounds. And that's pretty much the story most of the time when this team plays is Rashawn Agee is going to get his rebounding the ball. And I believe 9 of those double-doubles have come against Power 5 opponents, have come in SEC play, and 11 of them have come against Power 5 opponents. So when the lights are brightest for this team, Rashawn Agee steps up, and he's having to play 30 minutes a game. And we know how old he is. We know there's a lot of wear and tear on his body. But what he's able to do as probably the most tired player on the floor every single night and as the shortest 4 or 5 on the floor in the league is wildly impressive. And I was having a conversation with Callie about this last night of it hasn't really hit me yet. It's probably starting to hit me yet that his A&M career is about 90% over, 95% over. And, in the same way that a lot of people were really sad when, Wade Taylor graduated and Anderson Garcia graduated, those guys that were the heartbeat of the team in years past, I almost feel like Rashawn Agee has a similar weight to it, right? Like Rashawn's career ending has a similar weight to me, even though he was here for a fraction of the time as those other guys, not just for what his impact was on the court being pretty much an automatic double-double in SEC play, but for just what he meant for the culture of this team. Because if you had a player that was as good as Rashawn Agee on this team, maybe they make the tournament. But if you don't have somebody with the leadership of Rashawn Agee, this team is probably folding at adversity a lot of points this season. And I hope people realize just how important Agee is at setting the foundation of the culture that Bucky wants to build in year 1. And we'll see what years 2, 3, 4, and 5 and beyond look like for this program. But the culture that Rashawn Agee set playing as hard as he does every night, I hope people can look back and say that that was one of the guys that really started the party for this Bucky Ball tenure in Aggie land. And obviously his play on the court speaks volumes for the kind of player that he is, and could not be more proud of him.
I want to keep it with you here for a second, Luke, because we were supposed to talk about it yesterday. We didn't have a chance. Anderson Garcia making his NBA debut, the 9 rebounds, the 6 points. I called it earlier in the show a typical Anderson Garcia performance, right? Like what you would expect with Buzz Williams on the sideline, what he'd give you, and he did it in his NBA debut.
Yeah, we want to talk about hard workers and guys who set the culture. That's exactly what Andy did for 3 years here, which is probably why everybody loves Rashawn Agee so much, is because he reminds the fan base of Anderson Garcia. They're both 6'7". I know when Andy's got his poofy hair, he's probably closer to 6'9", but his actual height is 6'7". And as an undersized rebounder, he has to get it out of the mud every single night, and he's going against NBA level talent, and he's grabbing 5 offensive rebounds. His journey from playing basketball in the Dominican Republic to averaging 2 points a game at Mississippi State to not really playing much at A&M to then developing into probably their most reliable three-point shooter at the end of last season. For a guy that never averaged double figures in college to be in the NBA, 5-6 months after, graduating from A&M, or however many months it's been, I've lost track, maybe 10 months. The fact that he's the first person from that team to touch the NBA says a lot about him. And that's just a guy who never quits, right? The moment he left A&M, he went back home to the Dominican Republic to play in front of his family. And he was the MVP, the rookie of the year of that league, averaging like 18 and 15. And then he goes to the G League. He never even played Summer League, but he goes to the G League and is like the most impact player on the Mexico City Capitanes, who's in first place in the Western Conference. And he's averaging like 14 and 12. Like his rebounding and his skills translate. And you talk about a guy that deserves an NBA call-up, it's him. And thankfully, there's teams around the league that want to tank and bring up guys on 10-day contracts to give them a look like, hey, when we rebuild for the next year, who's maybe a guy that we want to call up? And Anderson Garcia, playing so well in the G League, gave him that opportunity. And it's not just, all right, you got your 10-day and you played a couple minutes and you were a warm body on the court. Andy's making an impact everywhere he goes, and that's the Anderson Garcia that we all know and love. And so I do think that if he continues to play well on this 10-day, it would not shock me if he was able to get another 10-day contract and eventually work his way up to maybe a 2-way contract heading into next year.
All right, let's wrap up. Tap, on Sunday, what do you think? A&M's going to get a 9 seed, a 10 seed, 11 seed? What do you think is going to happen?
I felt confident about the 9, but now I'm a little questioning it, But either way, they're in. And it's still a better season than we all anticipated in October. So, let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate the fact, we didn't want to be home now, but we're getting a few more days rest. So let's try to make some lemonade out of the lemons right now and realize it's been a successful season no matter what at this point.
Luke, did Miami, Ohio losing yesterday, and it looks like they're still in, does that hurt A&M from a seed perspective? There's other bracket busters out there.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it hurts A&M because there's really just like no teams on the 10-11 seed line that have won and will jump A&M. So there's still probably either that last 9 or the first 10. But the one that they need to root for now is St. Louis to probably lose in the A-10 finals, because if they go out early, they'll fall below A&M and get a 10, and then A&M will still be a 9. But let's just say this. Miami of Ohio losing isn't exactly the worst thing in the world in getting a 2-bid MAC, because there's another team in Texas that is right on the cut line that I think A&M fans would appreciate seeing miss the NCAA tournament. And if there's another bid stealer or two, it's probably a lot of trouble for Texas. So if there's any silver lining, A&M seed is going to ultimately come down to St. Louis. But if another team wins that league and A&M gets a 9, well, your arch rival might be watching you from their own couch or playing in the NIT. So as it relates to A&M seeding, I'm still not as sold they'll get the 10. It's not an automatic, but they did put themselves in a better position losing by 20 last night. But they need somebody else to jump them or somebody above them to not fall below them. And there's just unfortunately nobody that's winning games in that 9 to 11 seed range right now. Ohio State winning yesterday helped them, but it's ultimately going to come down to A&M or St. Louis for that final 9. So root for the Billikens to either win the A-10 or just don't lose in dramatic fashion early.
So, but you would prefer the 10 seed, correct?
Oh, of course. I mean, they're so matchup dependent this year. There's so much size in the top 8 seed lines, especially on the 1 seed. That's not to say I'm assuming they're going to win their first game, but if they go to a regional, a pod and Michigan is waiting for them on the 1 line, like let's just be honest here, they're not beating Michigan. So you're going to take your chances with maybe getting a Michigan State or an Illinois, but there's tons of size waiting for them, whether they get Miami or St. Mary's. The ideal matchup right now is if A&M can get a 10 and they draw Villanova and then Michigan State or Illinois. But anyone else like St. Mary's, and they're going to be in trouble with the size.
All right, we'll hit a break here. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you, Luke. Safe travels. Tap, great work, man.
Thanks,
Thank you.
brother.
We'll hit a break. We'll come back with a baseball bunch. I want to talk to you about my friend Chance McClain. He's not just a filmmaker. He's a storyteller, and he's the best at doing it. He'll tell your family's story better than anybody. He does these 2-hour documentaries that are reserved for families, for family businesses, family reign. I kind of lump them all together because that's what he does. He'll just tell you whatever's important to your family. You got a group of buddies that get together and they play golf every weekend. Let Chance be an eye in the sky and tell that story. Family celebrations, you name it. Get a 2-hour documentary that can be passed down from generation to generation, but also for right now, right? Enjoy that moment with your family, with your kids and your grandkids. What you need to do is call them up at 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341, or go to yourheritagefilm.com. That is yourheritagefilm.com. We're back here on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We've got SEC play beginning this weekend. What are we looking at?
Iron Man shirt, because you're a badass.
Well, I was. Not anymore.
Cool.
I'm not an Iron Man anymore. It is the baseball bunch. Ryan Brauninger, hello, sir.
Good morning.
Richard Zane, cheerio.
Howdy.
And Scott Clendenin on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. Hey, buddy.
Hey, good morning to you.
Where are you?
Well, first off, I am out of town, but as you can see behind me, we're
nice.
SEC ready in front of Waffle House.
There we go. Heck yeah.
That for sure means he's not in College Station.
That's true.
I am not in College. Exactly, Ryan. I'm in Hot Atlanta, heading to Macon.
Well, team, let's
Magic City.
Let's not a big fan. Let's
Have you had their chicken wings?
Lemon pepper what?
Never been to Magic City.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Ever.
How can you make
Unfortunately,
such...
all of us know what you're talking about.
I was talking about Atlanta in general, not just the establishment. All right, so on paper, guys, and Scott, we'll start off with you. 15-1 start. How much does the non-conference tell us about this team heading into conference play?
I like what the non-conference has told us. I think that we have seen that there's some depth in the lineup. You've been able to battle through 2 injuries to 2 bats that preseason you would want to have each and every day in the lineup, but you have shown that you can have some defense and some offense and keep it pointed in the right direction. That was one of the things that, you dealt with severe injuries last year, including, 2 All-Americans. Well, you've got an All-American who's been out and an All-Conference candidate who's been out, and you've kept it pointing in the right direction. I like what the pitching's done, and I think that having been to Arlington, I like that this team is been on the road, has kind of had a chance to bond together on the road and play good baseball. And I think that that's what you have to have when you go into your first conference weekend. Some test. I like some domination. But I also like that this team is just pointed in the right direction right now. There aren't the questions that surrounded the last year or even, the first year after Rob Childress when they were going to LSU looking for answers to a bunch of questions. This one has fewer questions and a lot of good answers so far this year.
Fewer questions and a lot more confidence. And I know confidence can't be quantified, and that's a qualitative data, but you can see it. Like, you can look at these guys and know they're in a much better spot at this point than they were at this point last year, right? 15-1, you don't get there without good pitching, clean defense, and timely hitting. They've gotten a lot of that early on in the season, and they've gotten a lot of that without 2 of those biggest bats out of the lineup, right? Chris Hacopian and Wesley Jordan. We saw the availability report yesterday. Chris Hacopian seems like he's going to be back. I would probably bet Wesley Jordan will be listed as game time decision, but wouldn't be surprised to see him in the lineup. So you've weathered that storm, which gives you even more confidence that your offense has been able to be one of the best in the league, albeit against non-conference competition, even without 2 of your biggest bats. So I think I feel very good about this team, or at least compared to where I felt about them last year, entering the first weekend of conference play.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I think both those guys hit the nail on the head. And you look at the schedule, and everybody will be ramped up and raring to go for SEC play, and everybody will, just like they did after week 1 of the regular season, everybody across the country will be in a rush to make a determination about every team in the league based off how they do in this opening weekend. And we know that there's the data collection has to keep going before you can make definitive statements about this team. But, yeah, you have to like where they're at right now. I've got some interesting questions that, I posed it on the board yesterday. Like, assuming Jordan and Hacopian are back, what do you do with them? Obviously, Chris is going to play, but the way Blake Benderup has swung the bat, he and Wesley Jordan's stats are almost identical in terms of at bats, slugging, the whole thing. They're almost identical. So with Bendy being healthy and having been played, do you keep riding the hot hand, or does Wesley Jordan get his spot back now that he's healthy? I tend to think that he is going to. Coach Early will write Wesley Jordan's name in the lineup. Benderup has been great, and we said that he was going to have to make the most of his opportunities whenever he got them this year because he was the back-to-back starter at first base to open the season in back-to-back seasons, I should say. And it didn't go great. And so he's kind of still got to overcome a little bit of that. But Blake has been awesome. He's a mature guy. He's an old guy. He's been sensationally good in this spurt. But what happens there at DH? And then what do you do in terms of the order when all these guys are healthy? Like TK. And this is another question I have. Put Caden Sorrell off to the side. Who's the offensive MVP if you put Caden Sorrell to the side?
I think it's either Keel or Jake Dewar.
Nico Partita?
Nico Partita's been really good too.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're getting a lot out of a lot of guys that like TK was going to be a key piece to this team, like no question.
Right.
But he's played above what you thought. Jake Dewar was going to be a key piece to this team. Above. Nico and Kellner, without question above. So you had to credit the coaching staff for getting all of these guys, not just Gavin and Sorrell ready to play. Like they have gotten their entire roster ready to play, and Scott pointed that out with the depth.
Has there been a narrative this year, since the season started, that preseason narrative, that has surprised you the most, Bronny?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they talked about questions with the pitching staff, and y'all asked Coach Early about that early in the week whenever he was in here with you guys yesterday. And it's fair to ask the question, but I said all offseason, I think they have raised the floor of the pitching staff. I really did. And so far, that's turned out to be true. They are going to get beat up at times because they throw the ball over the plate so much. And you're going to have an outing. We saw it with Weston Moss where it's flat and it's up, but it's in the strike zone, and you're facing good offenses in this league, and you're going to get your hat spun a bunch of times. Whatever. I'll take that. Like, you're not going to go through an entire SEC season unblemished, but I still think, man, I listen to D1 baseball, who are big fans of. I listen to some of the other guys that have podcasts about SEC baseball, and I still think they don't know about A&M, which is fine. But Oklahoma got a ton of run off of that first weekend where they went 3-0 in Arlington. And you go back and you look at it like, man, who'd they really beat? Texas Tech, Oak State, TCU, good teams, but it's no different than A&M beating Virginia Tech and Arizona State. So there is a lot of similarities when you look at the numbers between the Aggies and the Sooners, but I still think people are gun shy, and still people are still holding last year over the head of this team. But I think people still don't know about A&M. And there's elements that we don't know about A&M because of you've seen them fully fit and healthy for 2 games.
Scotty, you agree?
I do. I also think I like the mesh defensively. I think that when you talk about having 2 freshmen on the left-hand side, the second baseman that and you mix in Chestnut and Farr there, and then you have a first baseman that's never played first base at any length of time. I love what they've done on the dirt. The outfield can track it as well as anybody in the country. I mean, this defensive alignment in the outfield is top notch. And then, a catcher, Bear Harrison, has gotten better from last year. He makes the pitching staff better. So I love what they've done defensively. I think that certainly helps your pitching staff and help answer that question. And, to have a lineup where you have the problem of where are you putting TK, where's Hakopian going to be? What's the mix going to be? I like what Bronny had on the board yesterday. How do you mix that lefty-righty so you don't get too one-sided? All of those things are great problems to have. And something this coaching staff probably didn't lose a lot of sleep on because they think that they're going to put a lineup out there 1 through 9 now that has depth. And with Bear Harrison starting to warm up and come out of hibernation, has power and speed at any point in the lineup to, not give opposing pitchers any time off.
All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back. Right now, we're talking about Paragon Financial Advisors. If you're looking for real peace of mind when it comes to your money, check out Aggie-owned Paragon Financial Advisors. They're an independent fiduciary serving clients all across Texas with no sales pitches, no commissions, just honest financial planning and investment management. And what really sets them apart is their team. They have 9 CFPs, a CFA, and a CPA all on their staff. And those folks take their credentials seriously, and they work tirelessly to help you build a future that you can feel good about. Go to paragon-adv.com or give them a call, 979-693-3907 to schedule your free consultation today. It is Paragon Financial Advisors, integrity, expertise, and trust. Paragon Financial Advisors. All right, as a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie land since 1984 with your favorite pizza. And, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. Guys, potentially we'll see the lineup that we kind of expected at the beginning of the season. Just what does that do, Bronny, for the just the overall offense?
Well, I think, regardless of your opinion of who should hit leadoff or not, I'm pretty certain it's going to be Gavin Grahovic. But you just, when you add somebody like Chris Akopian, and the fan base, understandably, I don't think they have an idea of what kind of hitter this dude really is. Like, we've seen 2+ games. I won't even say 3 games because he had 2 at-bats in the final game he played before he went back on the shelf. I compare it, it's like a cross between Dylan Rock and Boomer White. Like Dylan Rock, competitive, tough, not going to move out of the way of pitches, going to be on the barrel a lot. But then there's like real right-handed hitter traits that he hits the ball hard to all portions of the field and can get a bunch of hits like Boomer did. It's a really unique piece to the puzzle for A&M, and he's a streak breaker if things are going bad. Like, if you have a run of bad at-bats, Chris Akopian just doesn't typically have them. So if you get into one of these deals where it's like Saturday against Penn and the ball's rolling down the hill in the wrong direction, Chris Akopian can provide a stopgap for that, and just kind of break that up and get people maybe back on the right track. And then Wesley Jordan, it's exactly what they wanted out of Baylor, was right-handed thunder in the middle of the order. He hits the ball incredibly hard, incredibly often. I think he'll be back in the lineup tonight. And it's just like this offense, like Scott said off the top, this offense has been really good and really efficient, and we still haven't seen it at its full potential. So I think that's what I'm most excited about this weekend is really, obviously you want to go up there and see if you can win a series in Norman against the top 10 team, but I'm just excited for this team to get some continuity playing together with all of its pieces.
Lineup 1 through 9, the starting lineup's going to be longer, right? Because you're going to have better, more experienced veteran bats back in there, right? But it also makes your bench longer and gives Michael Early more options to play with late in games. You need a big swing and you want to plug in Blake Bindrup, it's at your disposal now. Without Travis Chestnut starting the lineup, you can pick and choose when you want to deploy his speed. Same with Sawyer Farr, and his switch hitting ability allows you to play matchup with different guys out of the bullpen. Michael Early hasn't had to press those buttons because games really haven't been that close, right? But you're going to have those situations arise, and it's nice to have all of your weapons at your disposal, all of your options there when the situation does come up.
Scott, what can you tell me about their starting rotation? I know this was Cameron Johnson tonight. Cameron Johnson, LJ Mercurius, thank you, and Cord
nice
Rager. 0.39. That's pretty good. What can you tell me about him? I think Early yesterday told us just 3 different styles of pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and is there any surprise that Skip Johnson's going to put together a starting rotation like that? That's why he's one of the best and most distinguished pitching coaches in college baseball. And I think that one of the things that this will expose for both teams is that low-scoring games, can your offense keep an even keel, keep the temperature at the same level? I think that's one of the things about this. It's been a while since Oklahoma got pushed. They got pushed by Arizona State. They got a run rule against them, and then they took to the 8th inning, 3 hits in a row. Maybe it was the 9th inning to get a win in Game 2 of that midweek series, right before A&M saw Arizona State. Down at Minute Maid. I'm not at Minute Maid in Arlington. So I just think that, the competition is going to ramp up for both these teams. The run totals are going to come down, and you have to have good at-bats. That's why getting Hakopian back is such a key, because I think Ryan's right on the money with that, is that you moved a guy that's had success to a different part of the lineup, but they didn't get moved because they were inefficient or they were slumping. They got moved because you put a guy that was on the shelf due to injury. So nobody's losing any confidence. They're going to go into this, and you're going to have to be ready, because the strikeout to walk ratio for all their guys is tremendous, and the strikeouts per inning is tremendous. They're swing and miss in what they do, but can you bloody their nose? Can you get on them early in ball games and make them play from behind? I think that's why the top of this lineup with Hakopian back in it, get some runs in the first inning, and then let's see if OU can play from behind, because the starting pitching has not experienced that. The one loss against Gonzaga, against Rager notwithstanding, Johnson and Mercurius have not had pressure put on them because they've been able to get it from the start, put up zeros early in games.
Let me say something about this. May be a crazy statement, but I've watched Cam Johnson twice now. My scouting report, or one of the things that I would write down on the scouting report, would be swing, ? Should we be swinging? He gets so much chase out of the zone on his fastball. I watched his last start against Santa Clara, very different competition. But Santa Clara just kept expanding the zone on fastballs. So that tells me that the fastball, it either moves a ton or it's hard to see, right? That's what the hitters are telling me. When you're chasing fastballs out of the zone that often, there's something going on. Because, yeah, he throws hard. It'll be 94 to 96. Yeah. But that's something these guys see all the time. So what is it optically that's causing all this chase rate? So that would be one thing that I would just, maybe the first you don't take the aggressiveness away from your hitters. And A&M's done a really good job over the last 7 to 10 days of controlling the strike zone and making good swing decisions. But as the game starts unfolding, that might be something that I keep in my back pocket and go, we're going to quit swinging. Not altogether, but we have got to be really, really sure of what we want to attack before we, if you go up there without a plan against Cam Johnson, he will eat you alive. It's going to remind A&M fans of like a left-handed LeBaron Johnson from Texas. It's big, broad shoulders, gangly arms, big fastball. But I think he will spray. Like, I think he will walk you if you just sit there and don't get impatient with him. So I'm interested in that. And again, I've only seen 2 starts. I don't have the data in front of me. That could be completely off. That's just what my eyes have seen in the 2 games that I've watched that he's pitched.
What do we know about their bullpen?
Not as much. Just like we don't know a ton about A&M's bullpen because they haven't been taxed a lot, in these games. And I think Oklahoma, the one time that they were trying to use their bullpen is when that game got away from them against Arizona State, and then the next day they had to use them in a 3-2 game. So, like Scott said, Skip Johnson is going to pitch. That's what he's done. Go all the way back to his teams at Navarro when he was the head coach in junior college. Skip Johnson's teams pitch, and he's taken that junior college mentality and he's built really good rosters at Oklahoma. A lot of them coming through junior colleges. Deaton LaChance is one of their best players. Was at McLennan last year. Actually showed some interest in A&M, but had Brennan Brock's a junior college guy. So they hit the JUCO circuit hard, and that's where Skip Johnson cut his teeth. They are very fast and athletic as a lineup. They're not going to provide as much sock as A&M, but they're going to move the ball and put you pressure on your defense. That ballpark is going to kind of play similar to Bluebell for 2 days, and then on Sunday it's supposed to get like bitterly cold. So I would guess the ball's not going to fly there on Sunday. So you may have even some run outputs affected by the weather. But I'm really, really intrigued about what happens against Cam Johnson tonight, because I don't know that he's the best arm A&M's faced. The guy from Virginia Tech was really good. And I actually thought the game 2 starter for UCLA was really good. But he'll be in that realm with more upside. Like, he's got incredible upside. I just think you can wait him out.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with another segment with the baseball bunch here on TexAgs Live. Just found out moments ago that the baseball bunch will be extended a few minutes in the 10 o'clock hour. We'll just continue going. I don't know if Scotty can keep it going with us or not, but we'll just do a few more minutes at the top of the 10 o'clock hour. All right, Shane Sadeo tonight. Obviously, got to be very encouraged, Richard, for what we've seen so far. He's going to have to bring it tonight, though, against an offense that I think is very similar to A&M's offense, at least what we've seen from a scoring output.
Shane's been good. I don't think Shane would tell you he's been great or he's been good enough yet because he expects so much out of himself. What I love most about Shane Sadeo is the mentality, the way he attacks. He is a dog on the mound, and he's going to come right after you, and he expects perfection from himself. You saw that in his reaction after the second inning against Oakland last Friday. I think he's a great tone setter for the Aggies, your Friday night guy. And this is an opportunity for Shane to catch some eyeballs around the league and really start to cement himself as Texas A&M's ace, right? Because we hadn't seen him throw in a conference game in over 18 months. So here's an opportunity for Shane to go out. What I've loved about him most, as far as stats go, is limiting the walk, man. 2 walks all year, and how many innings? It's been impressive for number 38 to start the season. And if he can keep it going and can set the tone tonight and then on Fridays throughout the league schedule, that's going to give A&M a big chance to start winning some series against some really, really good offenses.
Scott?
Well, I love what Sadeo's done. Quite frankly, Weston Moss ran into a UCLA team that could beat the shift with some plate discipline, take some pitches to, against what the Aggie defense was set up. And then Aiden Sims has just been incredible. I love that. I love all of that rotation. But you're right, Sadeo can set the tone. I thought that third inning last week, watching it from away, that he just said, Oakland, that's it. You're done. And when you have a guy that can step up and do that, that's great. I also think there's some length in what they've done. I think they've worked up the pitch counts in a really great way, and I think we've seen that A&M has some length, because that's a question I have for Oklahoma. They have one complete game that's a run ruled shortened game, and then these other 3 starters have not really gone past 5 innings. So what kind of depth do they have? Have they not had to do it, or has it just been a situation where they can't do it? And I want to see that mix and match, because it certainly affects what A&M does when they go to the bullpen. Ethan Darden, and some guys there that have been really good in the middle. I don't know those guys from Oklahoma, and I don't know if Oklahoma trusts them like they trust these starters.
Scott, are you sticking around, or you got to go?
I can stick.
All right, we'll stick around for about 15 minutes with the baseball bunch on the other side. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And we are back here on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, a little extended baseball bunch. I want you guys to join us for the 4th annual Drive with On-Ramp fundraiser at Topgolf in Bryan, March 28th from 4 to 7. Tickets are $50, included 3 hours of play, dinner, and mini golf, with all the proceeds helping gift reliable vehicles to more hardworking Brazos Valley families in need. For more information or to buy tickets, visit onramptx.org. All right.
You know who's got a pretty good golf swing?
Who's that?
Nick Savage. He can keep it straight. Yeah. Hit stripes. It's impressive.
Good.
Yeah.
Keep it straight, Nick.
So, what are we pointing at?
There's a critter over there.
Oh, God. I'm out. And it's 400 degrees in here again. All right. Bronny, you had a good suggestion. So what would you do with the lineup?
Yeah, it's just, I think there's some decisions to be made, obviously, at the top. I don't know like how much time they're going to spend on those decisions. I think it will be pretty cut and dry for the staff, but there are legitimate arguments to be made as to why you'd keep Terrence Keel at the leadoff spot, and there's also legitimate arguments to be made as to why you'd go back to Gavin Grahovic. I think the more intriguing thing that you look at is what happens in the middle with Jake Dewar, because with the way he's swinging the bat, and if you're to start with a right-handed hitter at the top of the lineup, it's going to allow you to go right-left a little bit longer, whereas if you started with like Sorrell as your leadoff hitter, because you're limited with left-handers, it's going to shorten the opportunity you have to go alternate, right?
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I think because TK has been awesome, and like we said, he has been, after Sorrell, you can make an argument he's been the offensive MVP so far in the season. He does not impact the baseball the way that Gavin does. And I don't think that that's a knock on TK to say that. That's just
different kind of players.
Just way different players. And TK lives low liners and on the ground. Well, those that have a little bit of a shelf life to them over an extended period of time, like you're just, how many times are those ground balls going to find holes? You know what I'm saying? So just Gavin gives you the ability to put up more crooked numbers. And oh, by the way, here's my biggest selling point to keeping Grahovic hitting first. In 2024, Gavin Grahovic hit where in the lineup, David? First. Who hit behind him? Next two guys. Don't let David answer.
Remind me. I don't remember.
A right fielder and a center fielder. Does that help?
Oh, okay. So Jace was second.
Yes.
Am I correct about that?
Yes.
Hayden wasn't next, right?
Right field.
Remind me. What am I forgetting?
Oh, my God.
Oh, you talking about Brady Montgomery?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I had to go 2 years. Sorry.
Okay. And then you had the 4-hole with Jackson Appel.
Right.
So that is who Gavin Grahovic hit in front of it in his freshman season. He's a freshman All-American, SEC Freshman of the Year, record-setting season at Texas A&M, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Ahead of those three guys. Well, let's put him in this lineup at number one. Who hits behind him? Caden Sorrell. Where's he going to get picked?
Top 15?
In the first round.
Yep.
Where's Chris Akopian going to get picked?
First round.
What kind of hitter is Jake Dewar? Who you might compare him to? Jackson Appel?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
So you're saying there's some similarities with the team that went, from an offensive structure.
Yes. And Gavin had an incredible year hitting in front of those guys. I think that's why you keep him there.
Huh. Scott, what do you think?
Well, I also like having, if you are going to go with that lineup right there, I think the way Partita's swinging the bat, that he's probably locked in, behind Dewar, and then you can restart. A lot of people talk about a second leadoff. Well, you don't have to have a second leadoff in the 9-hole. I like him in the middle of the lineup there, because the guys that are behind him still have the opportunity to move the baseball and move him around the bases. And another thing about Gavin Grahovic, it's something that I've been watching. Gavin Grahovic has done a terrific job running the bases. I don't think people realize his ability to go first to third. The triple the other night out of the box, he was on his horse. He is running better than I've seen him run. And so you're not losing a whole lot when you're talking about a guy that can score on a gap shot. And I think that's another part of TK's game that you don't want to take away, the ability that you don't have to, run 3 hits in a row together to get somebody home. I think that Gavin Grahovic's done a really good job to be a much more athletic guy, and I'm seeing that all year long, him running the bases, and that's one of the other reasons why I think you're not losing a lot if you put him in the leadoff role.
I think if you go 6, 7, 8, 9. So I personally, I would go Grahovic, Sorrell, Hakopian, Dewar, Jordan. There's my top 5. Now, the second half of the lineup, 6, 7, 8, 9, like Scotty said, I can essentially restart a traditional lineup if I wanted to, right? Like I could go Nico 6 as my leadoff guy, TK 7, Bear 8, think about 8 as a 3-hole, and Kellner 9 as a 4-hole. 4 holes are now, we know about baseball, 4 holes get hits. That's why you're going to have Dewar probably hitting that 4-hole. Boston Kellner gets a bunch of hits down there at the bottom. So you can essentially make 2 different lineups within this starting 9, and I think that's how the staff is viewing this. And so, again, this is not any kind of commentary on Terrence Keel. Like, we're not moving Terrence Keel down because he's been a bad player. He has forced the conversation to be had about, actually, he's been so good, do we mess with it? Same deal with Blake Benderup.
Right.
Hey, he's been really good. Do we even mess with it? So we'll see what the staff does tonight.
Richard, let's say there's a casual who hasn't paid attention to the non-conference, and they're like looking at stats, and then they see Bear Harrison, like, why does he play so much? How would you describe that to somebody who's just starting their baseball watching now?
Let you know that he gets on base. He gets on base, like Moneyball, right? He gets on base. What's his on-base percentage? I want to say it's around 500, even though the average is just around 200.
Wow, you got stats on hand?
Wow. Stats
Not on hand. It was just right there. I saw it.
Anyways, I would let you know stats and box scores tend to lie, right? There's a cliche that box scores and stats are for people that don't watch the games. Bear Harrison, especially of late, starting to impact the baseball a lot more regularly, a lot harder, and he's been fine. His plate approach has been fine, right? He gets hit by pitches. He works walks. He gets on base. He drives people in. He's doing his job. And he has been better defensively. Right now, he is your best option defensively behind the plate, and that's going to come into play. It is a big part in this series against an Oklahoma team that likes to run.
I have a better number for you than his on-base percentage.
What's his OPS?
His OPS is 1082.
That's insane, considering his average is
and so he's right there at the team average for OPS. So you can talk about he's not hitting the balls, getting as much hits. I don't think Coach Early cares. In fact, I know he doesn't when his on-base percentage is that high. And like Scott pointed out a moment ago before the break, if you're paying attention, his contact quality has really gone up. Yep. And then he had the double and the homer in the midweek. Like, he's starting to show signs of not only am I going to get on base, but I'm going to impact the baseball like we know he can.
Well, you obviously want Bear Harrison to drive in runs and be a bigger bat for you, right? And see the slugging percentage go up. But it's similar to Terrence Keel, right? Do you care if TK is on first base because he got a single or because he worked a walk or because he got hit by a pitch? Absolutely not. Get on base. Getting on base, we know from Moneyball and the past 20 years, that is an extremely important ability. Get on base.
Well, and that whole team has adopted that because in Gavin Grahovic, Coach Early sat in here and talked about his leadership, and we had him in for an NIL interview. He was great. He always is. He's so mature and he's so advanced, and he's really perceptive. And he came in the offseason and said, we're not moving out of the way of pitches. We're not going to do that anymore. Now, I don't want Terrence Keel and Gavin and Chris Hakopian to get dinged up all the time, but like, they aren't moving. They are getting hit by the pitch, and Gavin is doing it in RBI spots. And so he's not just talking about it, he's living it. And whenever it happens up there at the top, you see it trickle down to these freshmen. And the perfect example is the walk-off run rule against Incarnate Word was a hit by pitch on Boston Kellner, who was 0 for 3 going into that at bat. And you know what would make him feel better? Getting a hit. I don't want to go 0 for 4. He gets hit by the pitch and celebrates it like he got a walk-off hit. So that thing has permeated the entire roster. And so these are just the differences in not only personality as a team, but like standards and what we are going to allow to happen. And it's a credit again. How many times did I sit up here during the offseason and say, Coach Early is done giving them choices? He gave any freedom that the 2026 team was going to get was ruined by the 2025 team.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I would have approached it too. We'll see how it manifests in terms of wins and losses. But Richard made the point earlier. You have to be willfully ignorant to say that hasn't been different from last year.
Scott, one guy that I don't think we've talked about enough is Aiden Sims. Just what kind of luxury is it having him, the way he's pitched this year so far, as your Sunday night guy or Sunday afternoon guy?
I mean, the way he ended, that scrimmage right in front of everybody, he was making a push to be higher up on the ladder for the weekend. And like the hitters, I don't think it matters. That's one of the things I've liked about this pitching staff is Coach Kelly. His philosophy applies to all the pitchers. You're going to throw strikes. You're not going to give up free bases. If you're the best at it and you're going to be a weekend starter, that's great. But where you pitch on the weekends really doesn't matter. And I think that he came back from a kind of a rough outing, and like Weston Moss, when you come back in games where you're like, well, that wasn't my best inning. Well, it doesn't happen too often to these guys. And Aiden Sims has gone out there in a kind of a different way to get after it. And I think he's as underrated as any sophomore pitcher in the country. I really do. I think that, he's the guy that his profile and his stock is going to go way up here during this season, because even in a league full of great guys, the great teams have a third starter. When we get from the middle point of the season on, you're going to see TBA listed a lot of times for a lot of different SEC teams. And right now, A&M is not in that position. You keep these three guys healthy, and you're not going to have that TBA over and over and over again, where pitching coaches and head coaches across the SEC are looking for an answer in Game 3. And that's a real luxury for A&M to have.
All right, guys, last thing for you. I'm not asking for wins and losses this weekend, but how does this weekend play out? Like, what kind of games are we going to see with two really good pitching staffs, two really good offenses? Richard, start us off.
You expect to see a lot lower scoring ball games than we've seen from A&M early on in the season. That's just a testament to who they're going to be facing on the other side, which highlights the importance of continuing to limit the free passes, which this pitching staff and Maroon and White has done a great job of doing so far this season. It's cliche, but it's true, right? It's going to come down to who pitches it the best, who plays the cleanest defense, and who gets the timely hitting. And A&M has given you reason to believe that can be them more often than not heading into this weekend. We're just going to have to find out together.
I think you have to keep doing what you're doing from a pitching standpoint if you're A&M, because Oklahoma is not – I mean, they can run the ball out of the ballpark, but they don't have a ton of sock like A&M does. It's just not how they're built. That's typically not how Skip Johnson builds his team. It's funny enough that you say that. The 2022 group that beat A&M in the College World Series, that was a really well-rounded team. They went to the finals. They had big-time pitching like Skip always does, but their lineup was a really good mixture, really good blend of power and speed. This one's going to be more speed. You pointed out, David, during the commercial break, they've stolen 56 bases, 61 attempts. So they turn walks into doubles. It's not about just walking and getting to first base. Then they're going to start pressing the gas pedal and try to influence outcomes. And whereas, it takes 2 hits to score, traditionally, they're going to try to get to first so that 1 hit can score them when they try to steal second. So you don't want to be putting them on first base for free. If they get their hits, that's fine. They're not going to scare you out of the middle of the plate. I mean, Brendan Brock maybe, but there's not a lot of guys in their order that are going to leave the ballpark. They make their money on just kind of pressuring you to death from 1 through 9. And so you're going to have to be really good pitching to them and then really good pitching to them when they're on base as well. So mixing your holds, calling the picks. Some of these games may take a little while because you've got to be careful with the base runners.
Scott, final word.
I want to see what happens when Oklahoma is forced to play close games. Just like that's something A&M has to see when they're in games. It's close. When the pressure gets on from these pitching staffs, how these offenses respond, that's going to be the key matchup. You go on the road in the SEC, you're not looking for sweeps. You're looking for individual wins. And, especially when you're talking about as good a matchup as the SEC has and on this weekend slate is A&M going to Oklahoma. I think the scores are going to come down, and the team that plays the best in the tight moments can get this series win.
All right, good stuff, guys. Thank you very much. We'll hit a break. We'll come back. Tom Schuberth, chit-chat a little basketball, followed by Billy Liucci. Right now, Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. And they've done so by dedicating their time to the conservation of a healthy community. They have respect for the native landscape and, of course, that wildlife with 2,600 acres of open space. You've got farms, you've got 30 miles of trails, and they want to connect families to nature and to each other. They have all the animals you can imagine, from white-tailed deer to songbirds to rabbits to turtles. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you're coming back to that pristine countryside place. You can go hiking there, biking, canoeing, you name it. They've got kayaking, equestrian trails. It is a place to go, just be outdoors with your family, enjoy nature and each other. Check out the website, millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. We're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We are still disappointed about the A&M basketball game from last night. But hey, hopefully a tournament to talk about. Yeah, not hopefully. There's going to be a tournament to talk about on Sunday after Selection Sunday. Let's go to the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. Our good friend, the coach, Tom Schuberth, joining us. Tom, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning, David. I'm doing great. Love being on the show with you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. So what in your opinion happened last night? Was it a team that just didn't have it? Was it an Oklahoma team that wanted it more? What do you think happened?
I think a combination of both of those things, David. I didn't feel good about the game just because Bucky's team, their back was not against the wall. And I think they have to play, that expression with their hair on fire every time they go on the court. And this was probably the first time this year where from the start of the game, it looked like A&M was on their heels the entire way. Now, when at halftime, I went and got something to drink, came back up, was watching the game. When we got off to that great start at halftime, I'm going, well, here it is again. Here's what Bucky ball's all about. They just need that spurt. But then, obviously, Oklahoma answered, and they were playing a wounded animal. Oklahoma, they've got to keep winning to have a chance to make the tournament. Now, I know I'm making this a long answer, but I don't think Oklahoma deserves to be in the NCAA tournament unless they win the SEC or at least get to the championship game. Whether they're capable of doing that, I don't know. But I just think it was a combination. They were playing a tough matchup has great guards, number one. Two, we've already beaten them twice, but again, my theory on that. It's hard to beat somebody 3 times, but it's harder to beat somebody that's already beaten you twice, to beat them that third time. So that's been proven. But I just think, it wasn't like we were ready to play, and it didn't mean all that much to us. That's how it looked to me.
Yeah, I felt the same way. So when you look at A&M overall, I don't think they've been playing very well the last stretch of the season. I know some will argue with me that they played great against Kentucky, which they did, that they played really well in some of the other wins, and then they had a loss to Alabama that they played really well in. But overall, I feel like, and maybe it's the level of opponents that they're playing, they have not played their best brand of basketball for 3-4 weeks. Would you agree or disagree?
I think you're spot on again. But, David, I think part of it, too, is the competition. I mean, there's no question the second half of the season compared to the first, they haven't played as well. But yet they've also played the tougher part of the schedule in the second half compared to the first. They made a believer out of me, and I'm a fan of Bucky ball, and they deserve to be in the tournament. Watching the Kentucky game up there live, and I watch it intently because I want to learn too. I want to see if I'm figuring this stuff out right, how good we are, how good these opponents are. I wasn't as impressed with Kentucky as I thought I was going to be. There's something about that team that's just not there. And the same holds true for Georgia, and it kind of holds true for Oklahoma. Now, again, they're playing kind of like Bucky ball did early in the year. They've got something to prove, and they're coming out really getting the job done. But I think it's a combination of things. No question they're not playing as well, and then their schedule's a little tougher. And then let's go back to all the cliches. Pressing teams usually aren't as effective in the second half of the year. When you play somebody that mirror game or the second time around, and especially in the third time around, and you're more familiar with it, you make adjustments that usually are more effective. So I think it's all a combination of things. I was talking to Luke yesterday, and the thing that impressed me most about this A&M team is that we know what they're about, shooting threes, pressing the entire game, wearing the opponent down. But even when they've done that, they've lost sometimes that. But when they haven't done that, they found ways to win. And that, to me, says they're a good basketball team. They find a way to win, and that's really what it's all about. So I'm confident they're going to do good in the NCAA tournament. But to have the success that the fans are hoping, that Bucky's hoping, that the players are hoping, the matchups have to be right. I mean, they could get a first-round opponent that they don't match up well against, and be out in 40 minutes, or they can find somebody they can beat. Maybe there's an upset in the next game. You remember when Fairleigh Dickinson upset Purdue that year. Florida Atlantic made the Final Four that year because Florida Atlantic's next opponent was Fairleigh Dickinson when they thought it was going to be the number 1 seed Purdue. So that was the 8-9 game that I'm referring to, by the way. So I think A&M will be an 8, 9, 10, and they could possibly even be 11 because the committee is much integrity as they say they want to have. They've got some personal bias in there, particularly guys that some of the ADs that are on there, they favor certain teams that maybe they view do it the right way and so forth. So I don't know if A&M will be a beneficiary of that. We talked about Martin Newton, who was Bucky's AD at Samford. He's going to be on the committee. So I think A&M is going to get rewarded personally, and I hope I'm right.
So when you say rewarded, do you think there'll be a 9 seed? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah, I think 9, 10, But I could also see them, let's say Oklahoma ends up winning this SEC tournament. That can knock some other SEC teams down the ladder, and that's what's going to happen. When I was confident A&M was going to make the tournament, it wasn't so much, David, about A&M. It was the fact that they're a member of the SEC, and they were one of the top 10 teams in the SEC. That's how I always felt they were going to make the tournament. Looking back, I thought they would struggle at LSU to win because, again, it wasn't, in my mind, and I think in your mind, it wasn't a must-win to make the NCAA. But in reality, I almost wish they would have lost that game, which would allow them to play the first night, and get that rhythm and momentum. I'm huge on that in the tournament. I'm going to steal a line from one of the commentators. I think it was Dane Bradshaw, and he said, when you're playing the first game and a couple games, you build up a rhythm, and is rhythm overtake rest or rustiness? And I think when you're sitting out and waiting for your opponent, you are rested, but you can get rusty. And so I like playing and have rhythm. And I think deep down, if you were to ask Bucky, I know Bucky ball, they thrive on rhythm and momentum. So the more they can play and get that opportunity to get hyped in a 40-minute basketball game when you're only going to play 6 or 7 to win a national championship, I really don't fatigue. I don't think fatigue comes that big a play. And again, I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but I just wanted to give my perspective is what I think a lot of coaching staffs feel the same way. You still have to go out there and play a 40-minute basketball game. So sometimes the media, and I'm part of that as well, you try to add some, ideas in there why they're losing or why they're winning. Sometimes it's just who plays the better basketball game. And in this case, Oklahoma totally dominated that game last night.
Tom, last thing for you. In my opinion, for A&M, for Bucky ball to work, at least with this collection of talent, they have to be the aggressors. They have to force the tempo. Am I correct?
No question. In fact, there's times when, I'm old-fashioned. I played in the system back in the day when, pressing for 40 minutes, never back down. There's some times, and again, I'm not questioning Bucky, but I wish he'd even be more aggressive, where we fought back to get in the game, and then he kind of backs the press down. Again, he knows his team a lot better than I do. But I love when they're the aggressor. I mean, they scare opponents. They really do. And I think you probably felt the same way in the start of that second half. Did you, a little bit of you think, hey, here we come again. We're going to do it. I thought that run early, if we could have got one more basket, I think it might have been one of those games like the Auburn game where, you score 11 points in 18 seconds or whatever. And I was just hoping we could get one more hoop. But when they responded, I think they made a drive to the basket. It kind of stopped the momentum. But, yeah, I love when they're aggressive. I think that's when they're their best. But at the same time, when they are able to build leads and then they're in control, I think then you play clock more than you play score. So I am big about, taking time off the clock when you have a lead compared to just playing reckless abandon the whole time. But I think Bucky's done a marvelous job, and that's why we're talking about them. They're in the tournament. We know that. I mean, I think anybody would bet on that. So he's done a marvelous job. But are they a dangerous team as much as people thought maybe 9 games ago? Probably not.
Tom, great stuff, man. Appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, David. Have a great day.
You too, buddy. Tom Schuberth on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. We'll come back with Billy Liucci. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Your trade-ins got value, and at Caldwell Country Chevrolet, they're ready to put that equity to work for you. They've got a great pre-owned inventory there, but it moves fast, which means they're always looking for quality vehicles to add to their lot. So bring in what you have, let them evaluate it, and their experienced sales team will tell you what it's worth, and then you can, use it to good use, right? Use it to good use. You can put it to good use, right? And you can get yourself a new vehicle with a place that's going to take amazing care of you with no gimmicks, just honest deals from people that treat you like family. Remember, it's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. We're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We might have Billy Liucci here shortly. Until we do, let's find out what's happening on TexAgs today. And we go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kayla, what do you have for us there?
Well, first of all, it's never a better time to be a TexAgs premium subscriber. We will have a ton of content coming from the NCAA tournament. There's baseball this weekend, softball this weekend. There's a ton of Aggie sports happening, so it is never a better time to be a TexAgs premium subscriber. You can go to texags.com/subscribe to sign up. Now for On TexAgs Today.
Actually, we got Billy there, so hold on for the rest of that.
Well, hold on.
For a little bit. Let's go to the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. We find Billy Liucci. Hello, Billy.
Hello, David. I'm hiding out on Broadway in a little, windowsill. So if it gets loud, I can't control who or what drives by or walks by, for that matter.
We're just happy to have you here on the program, buddy. Yesterday, I think you got to the game a little bit before it started. Lowest scoring game of the year, and I think the lowest since the third game of the year. What was up with the offense, do you think?
Hey, can we stop with the mute thing today while we're on? Can you tell Nick or whatever? Because I like to, converse back and forth with you. And I just tried to, but you couldn't hear me, and you kept talking.
Oh, okay. Let's try again, Billy.
So what I was going to say was I'm tired from night one in Nashville, the late night game, early morning. But I promise I look better than Olin and Luke did this morning. They both look like they'd been run over by the Sooner schooner.
Did you see the yawns?
Yes, I did. And to Luke's credit, he was up working because I called him at about 2:00 and he was still writing.
So what was your takeaway from, I guess, from a offensive standpoint, or maybe it's from an energy standpoint, or what do you think happened last night, Billy?
Well, I mean, we've seen some down the stretch here, some halves where they can't make a shot. To be frank, they've been out energied. We've seen some. You think about a good chunk of that Ole Miss game. You think about early on in Kentucky, at Vandy. There's probably a couple more, but there's been times where you've seen that, and then if that's happening and the shots aren't falling, it's a bad formula for this team. And when another team, because they're already going to have a hard enough time on the offensive glass, and then you add in what kind of looks like fatigue with that, and then if you miss some shots, you add in frustration with that. It's a bad formula. There's certain things that they can do well, that they have to do well in order to win games, and at the top of that, or the bottom of that pyramid is making shots, right? So part of it was that. I think part of it was clearly they, in some rotations, left some OU guys wide open. Then, Pack, the crew, they start not missing shots. It was actually insane, But look, I was worried about that game, genuinely worried, not just from the standpoint of OU is red hot. And, I talked to you about this last week and the week before. That win in Norman was significant, in my opinion, for their season. So, everyone that's oh, they've not played really good basketball in the last 5 weeks. No, they're playing teams that, in a lot of ways, are better. In terms of they're bigger. In terms of they've got a star go-to shot maker. They've got more size. They've been in the system longer. They're playing real SEC teams that are all going to the tournament. And even a team like LSU, you look at them down the stretch, and they play everyone tough. A&M's results, they're not like they were when they were 7-1, but they're like most other teams in the SEC, like those results are. They all beat each other, and they're all tough, hard-fought games. And if you go look up any team in this league outside of probably, including Bama at number 2, a lot of them will go and have these inexplicable games where they get the brakes beat off of them. And see, I knew this was coming. I knew it. You can mute me now.
No, I like it.
Every 5 minutes. Right.
It's like Aaron Torres.
I mean, this must be, I swear, it's the fire capital of the world. There's like a fire truck every 5 minutes. But anyway, so like even OU, like they beat the crap out of Georgia, who's going to the tournament. They beat the brakes off of Missouri like a week ago. And then there's times where they go and get beat. So it's just it's everyone. And last night wasn't the Aggies night. I do think if you're concerned type, and I think it's legitimate to say, hey, well, Bucky's openly talked about fatigue. He talked about that after the Vandy game, before the Ole Miss game. And, I think, everybody's talked about it. I'm not saying anything new here, but there is a silver lining to get the heck out of there and letting their legs rest. But, it's kind of like football, Nuño, where we were like, if they get knocked out, when their season ends, this might end up being the reason why, because it's a recurring thing. It's like big plays allowed in the run game and turnovers. But, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I think with basketball and this team, when it does end, and hopefully it's not in their next game, because when it does, it'll probably be because they either run into a team that's just got way too much size for them, and I don't just mean in the front court. A lot of times it's at guard as well. Probably not as much last night, but it's going to be either a size thing or they just have one of those cold shooting stretches that they can't overcome. And when I say cold, I mean, in the low 20 percentile, which sometimes they do.
Yeah.
Then again, sometimes they don't.
Sure, but I guess what concerns me right now, Billy, is that's the most fresh thing on my mind is what we just saw last night. And they have been playing from behind often. I think it's 3 straight games with double-digit deficits they had to come back from. And this team, to me, is so much better with a lead, right? Like a lot of teams are better with a lead, but they when they're in that attack mode, they're a different basketball team.
Yeah, they can bury you. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, here's the deal. Let's just be serious and real blunt about it. We just don't have any idea what to expect in the tournament, whether it's game 1 or game 2 if they get there. You just have no. And listen, I think people need. I saw a couple people inside. If I had like a virtual slap button, some people need like the taste slapped right out of their mouth for how frustrated. I understand frustrated, but you can be frustrated and disappointed with the performance and call it like it is. It was lethargic, and OU definitely looked like they were playing harder, fighting more for every loose ball. And I get that. You never want to see that. But you don't have to, as a fan, as an Aggie, translate that into a bigger picture frustration. And I did this whole thing recently. Everyone was crying about the Texas loss and never win a big game. And I went down the list of big games Texas A&M athletics has won in the last couple. It's so stupid. And it's just this defeatist crap that I already saw seeping in after that game, which was wild to me. Because it's like, in the big picture, it might not even matter. It might, as I know everybody's talked about, it might be the difference between a 9 or 8 and a 10 seed. Like, it might work out for the better. Who knows? But it's certainly not worth, like, this is year 1. No one chirping on social media or TexAgs thought this team was doing anything. And I'm not saying, hey, they're going to the tournament, that's it, we should all be. But I'm saying, like, you definitely, this team has earned the benefit of the doubt, and so has Bucky, to not, like, get all up in your feelings outside of just like, damn, they really played bad going into the tournament here. I'm worried that they might be a one and done. That's fine, and that's understandable, that's normal, and that's accurate. But beyond that, It's crazy to me. This is one of the better coaching jobs that I've seen at A&M in a long, long time. Well, not in a long time because we've had a couple of amazing ones, but it's right up there. We talked about it the other day. I have it in my top 3. That's if they don't win another game. And I certainly think they can. And hopefully losing that game like that leaves a pretty bad taste in the mouth, and they kind of understand that it takes a different sense of urgency in the postseason.
Well, and Billy, look, I know this is a case for every team, right? But specifically to A&M, it really comes down to the matchup, right? If you are taking a team that isn't so physically imposing, and most teams are going to be physically imposing, but if you get the right draw, who knows what this looks like in the tournament?
There's no question. And you know how it goes, man. Like, you remember how Buzz Williams and the whole year, a few years ago, A&M couldn't guard that corner perimeter three-pointer to save their life all year, going back to like the first week of the season against Colorado. And what do they draw in the tournament? They draw Penn State, like the best three-point shooting team in the country. They do that on purpose, you know? And like, so hopefully they do that, you know, in a way that sets up A&M to be a problem for somebody in like round 2, you know, if they get there. Like they set them up to play somebody where it's like, yeah, that 2 seed should probably win, but they might have a real problem with buckyball and that style of play. So yeah, you don't know. And look, it's disappointing. Again, I feel like people are, we always lose the first game. It's just stupid. It's not true. They did last year and they did this year. And by the way, common denominator, I almost called you Louie. Common denominator, Nuño. Let's think about this. They lost to Texas. Texas desperately needed it to get in the tournament. A&M did. Same thing last night with OU. Guess who else was in that boat a couple of times under Buzz Williams? It was Texas A&M. And I will tell you what worried me. I did see, and I'm starting to come to this conclusion as you watch OU and Ole Miss. I remember 2 years ago, the Aggies struggled and didn't look great against Ole Miss, and they won. They played that night, and then the next evening, or that next day, they played Kentucky. A Kentucky team that was better than A&M. And A&M ran them out of the gym in front of nothing but Big Blue Nation who I'm about to go watch. They ran them out of there, right? And all that had to do with, I think, a lot of it is to play one game in that venue, shoot on those nets, when the other team's just sitting there and comes out the next day. That doesn't mean that A&M should have shot poorly, but I do think there's a big advantage to playing in that game, one game early and the other team sits.
Really, I appreciate it, buddy. Safe travels. I'll see you on Sunday for Selection Sunday in a luchador.
Wait, what?
What? What?
What is that?
A luchador?
Why the panic?
It was 10:50. The segment ended 3 minutes ago.
Well, take us back from a break because I got a little story for you.
All right, we're going to have a minute and a half on the other side because you're on a phone line, not on Zoom. So we should. Okay? It's TexAgs Live with a story from Billy. We go back to the Bumpy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. We've got 3 minutes, not a minute and a half. We actually made it, ladies and gentlemen. Billy Liucci with a great story to share with us. Billy, you're back on the air. Hello, Billy. Is he on mute? Or
David?
There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, the
I'm
Billy
sitting
Liucci.
here, you might hear a brutally bad early morning version of Amarillo by morning being sunny. I'm standing next to the Ryman looking at it. And I got a music story for you.
Let's go.
That our friends from Nashville who came with their daughter, soccer playing daughter, and they brought her into the studio a couple of years ago, and they were asking me about someone that lives in their neighborhood. And their daughters were good friends, I guess. That was the story. So their daughters were good friends, and they asked did I really like Creed, or was that just a bit? And I was like, I love Creed. So I went to the concert at the rodeo the other night in Houston on Wednesday. Fly out yesterday. 3-hour delay. Olin and Luke getting to the airport, leaving at 9 a.m. for a 4 o'clock flight. I got there 2 hours early. There was one person in line, security. Then we had a 3-hour delay. Then we sit on the runway in Nashville for an hour. Then I'm at baggage claim. I'm about to lose my mind, and I look to my right, and I'm standing by somebody that looks incognito, and I do a double take. None other than Scott freaking Stapp himself.
Did you say hi?
Do you know? I did, and I told him the show was great, and he seemed a little nervous that someone spotted him, like it was going to cause a problem. So I didn't try to get a picture, or you know how hard it was for me not to say, hey man, we should do like a TikTok, Instagram reel where I do hello my friend, we meet again, and you do it's been a while. You know the inner urge that was there for me to do. I needed somebody like Seth that would have dorked out and taken the fall for being the one to harass him, because I couldn't do it. But he was really nice and just set the trip off on the right foot. And I thought that was going to lead straight to an Aggie win, but no such luck. But I did meet Scott Stapp. And some listeners will truly appreciate that. You, of course, will not.
I appreciate it. Scott Stapp from Stone Temple Pilots. Just kidding. I know he's Creed. I know.
Creed.
It was a bit. I know.
And it was an awesome show.
Isn't it the guy who puts his arms in the air like he's Jesus and like asking for more?
They're wide open. Arms wide open.
Wide open. I actually saw all the reports. It was a great show, but we got to drop it there, Billy.
I'm going to tell you.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you something. He kicked your ass. I know that.
Bro, that's why you're on the phone or I'm hanging up, even if you're the owner. We'll see you mañana or Sunday, Monday, whenever. I'll see you soon.